Hi there, this is Robin Bien. I'm doing a video on murdered and missing Indigenous women in Canada for Indigenous Studies 201 at the University of Regina. Hopefully the lighting and sound are okay. I just wanted to address the idea of perspective. I'm doing this topic because I think that the things that make us uncomfortable are the things that show us what is truly important. And so I decided to do the thing that makes me least comfortable. And this video is very hard for me to shoot. But if you can, you should hear the perspectives of these families and communities, and when possible, the women who are mistreated. I just wanted to start as well by talking about one of the women themselves, and not statistics and not reports, because the women themselves are the story here. Tanya Marie Hill was an Ontario resident in Hamilton, and she was found naked in her apartment, dead. She was covered in bruises. Her apartment had blood on the walls, as well as on the floor. She had a blood alcohol content of 0.450, and she was brutalized, essentially. The family contend, and they consider it murder. The crime scene photos corroborate this. Excuse me. And her boyfriend admitted to killing her a few days later. But the police don't regard it as having been foul play, because she had an extreme amount of alcohol in her system, and that is considered to be what killed her, despite the fact that it was probably just a symptom of extreme domestic abuse, of which she was a victim. She was regularly covered in bruises and missing hair, actually, which she tried to cover up, but was unsuccessful, as family noticed it all the time. However, knowing all this, the police, regularly in her past had done nothing to stop it. They say there's no indication of intent in her death, simply a case of alcohol, which is patently ridiculous, in my opinion. And in fact, I think in anyone's opinion who actually reads up on her. It's sad because she was a survivor of domestic abuse who wanted to help others in domestic abuse situations. Her family is mistreated by police pretty regularly when they try to look into this event. And in fact, at the time of her death, where officers had purportedly mistreated the crime scene and sort of had sort of not gone about procedure, they were quipping about her death and her alcohol intake, and purportedly doing so while the family was with them as well. This kind of thing is emblematic of maybe not your average case of murdered and missing Indigenous women, which at this point I'm just going to refer to as MMWs because I keep getting my tongue tied, honestly. And so I hope you'll accept that shortening. The MMW cases are 69% of missing, or essentially assaulted women too, actually, according to Amnesty International, who did a report on this, and essentially said that they were doing the report because the RCMP had not done enough. That comes directly from Amnesty International, which is quite a respected organization. The CBC actually has a extensive log of murdered and missing Indigenous women. There are 304 there in their log at the time of this writing. And they've done an in-depth study on 34 of them to sort of give a personal touch. And that's where I got Tanya Marie Hill's information from, and did a little more research into her family. Honestly, reading about her, I can't help but tear up. Like I said, these women account for a great number of crimes in Canada against them. And most of the cases are done. 62% of the cases against them are by people known to them, not necessarily people they can consider friends, but people known to them. And again, these are the cases that are solved. I'll address other cases in a minute. 62% of those cases are done by them, and the remaining 38% are done by strangers. And these cases aren't done because these women are bad. These crimes aren't committed against them because these women are socially criminals. The issue here is their vulnerability. These women have low socioeconomic statuses. These women, according to the RCMP, are often addicts. Although Amnesty International suggests that they are often this way because, frankly, the ones that do have low statuses can't get into shelters. They can't take part in the institutions that purport to protect them because of racism. And they are neglected, essentially. The RCMP asserts that the women who are victimized, the large number of them, this is done so because because of their proximity to crime, essentially, is the line. Amnesty International's 2004, which is a little old, but further reports corroborate this. The Stolen Sisters report concludes that what is actually happening is factors compound. So what is actually happening is men are encouraged to target Indigenous women because of racism and misogynistic violence, as well as the previously mentioned institutional racism and other issues, not allowing them to take part in things like women's shelters, in domestic violence shelters, which I'm going to go ahead and assume was part of Tanya Marie Hill's issue as well. If she'd been given help by the government, by these institutions, maybe she would have survived. She was a constant victim and a strong survivor, I would say. No matter what the police seem to think of her. And so this is happening not because of those issues of sort of these women being... It's nothing these women are doing. It's a social issue. And to that end, an article. I'm sorry, a journal article by Gilchrist infers. I'm sorry, has found that the the amount of coverage that these murdered and missing women get is 3.5 times less than if a white woman were to be a victim of the same circumstances. In these this CBC record that I found, all of the cases there, the 304, those are the cases the CBC purports do not involve foul play, and that's 304 people who are considered suicide, who are obviously not suicided, who have obviously not suicided, sorry, who have gone missing, while on trips with their abusive boyfriends, who have been attacked by police themselves, who have been the victims of substance abuse and no one has helped them. The issue here isn't that these people are abusers. The issue here is they're looking for escape. They're looking for help in things. They're not getting help from the proper places, and so they're forced to just focus on survival. And in survival, they're being victimized, and their vulnerability is being exploited, unfortunately. And that's what's happening with a great number of Indigenous girls. And I say girls because in Saskatchewan, studies have found that the average working prostitute, and I'm just going to go to this place for a minute, the average working prostitute is 14 years old. Now that's an average, and it's an average for a number of reasons, but the missing portion of murdered and missing Indigenous women is in no small part related to the issue of trafficking and prostitution. And again, these women are driven to it because of their victimhood under social constraints. And I just wanted to bring up a video that you, viewer, might want to watch. It is called, I lost the video here. It is called Enslaved and Exploited, the Story of Sex Trafficking in Canada. And only a small portion of it goes to murdered and missing Indigenous women, but it is sort of a moving, touching, full documentary, which changed my view on a lot of women's rights issues, and does describe the sex trafficking issue a lot better than I can in this time frame. I recommend highly that you watch it. I've included a link in the email that I've sent you. If we're to do something about these issues, there needs to be social change. There needs to be an increased awareness in these things. And I just want to end with the mention of a further victim of these crimes. And I've just lost her name here. I'm sorry. She was a victim in 1951, which is why I'm bringing her up. This issue did not start, in 2000. I've unfortunately lost her name, and I'm going over time here, but it's very important that I feel like I bring her up, because I don't want to leave someone's name out of this. yeah, she was 21 when she went missing. She was a Saskatchewan resident here in Loon Lake, and she, like I said, she went missing in 1951. She was a 21-year-old mother of two. So this is, almost 70 years of murdered and missing Indigenous women, and in order to do something about it, we need to address these issues socially, give these women more traction, more of a stage, and treat them as people and not just statistics. Thank you.